Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot coming at you with the weekly comic book roundup. We covered this past week's X-Men books, as well as this week's Star Wars book, and this past week's issue of House of Slaughter. Now we move on to this week's Spider-Man books, as well as our miscellaneous Marvel books. Kicking things off, we've got Amazing Spider-Man number 82, Chapter 8 of Spider-Man Beyond. So this issue is going to focus largely on Peter, so we won't really be going into what Ben's been going through. But during a fight with the UFOs, which was likely staged by the Beyond Corporation, Spider-Man was basically ended up getting a rather strong dose of radiation poisoning and ended up in a coma. Doctors couldn't figure out how to treat him. However, thanks to Dr. Octopus and Aunt May, a treatment plan was devised and put into effect, and Peter came out of his coma. And so, the issue begins with Peter being moved. Peter's been moved out of the ICU. He has a roommate, but an orderly comes in to take his roommate elsewhere. Then MJ comes to see Peter, and Peter's former roommate's wife asks what's happened, and Peter tries to explain the orderly came and got him. The orderly then informs MJ that visiting hours are over, but MJ protests, saying it's not even 8. Then Peter's got a new roommate, and again the same orderly comes and takes her away. She's supposed to be going home though, but Peter blacks out. The orderly comes for Peter, and Peter wants to know what's going on. And he's been given some additional sedative. The orderly explains that there are places in hospitals that are not meant to be seen, but they open themselves to those who know how to look. And so the orderly takes Peter to his favorite place. It appears to be an abandoned subterranean operating theater. And it turns out that said orderly is a cannibalistic creature that presumably capable of shapeshifting. Apparently, said creature is adverse to light, but MJ has followed and uses the flash on her cell phone camera to harm the creature, which chases her down, and she does manage to escape, but only briefly. However, in some ways it's a ruse just to get the creature in front of a bunch of lights, which she then plugs in, causing them to turn on, and the creature burns. In the sewers beneath Manhattan, Missy Knight and Colleen Wing are tracking something for the Beyond Corporation. They're getting a new car out of it, which, while yes, Colleen wrecked the last one, she wants to wreck this one too. Turns out that Missy and Colleen are tracking the lizard. That is where the issue ends. An alright issue, I guess. So far, I kind of think this has been kind of the weakest part of the Beyond story. Glad to see Peter back, out of his coma, and presumably to have a more prominent role in the story moving forward. But time will tell. Anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Venom number 3. Where we left off here, Eddie Brock had been killed by military forces, and Dylan had attacked them. But apparently there were instructions that Eddie left for Dylan, and so Dylan followed him, went to San Francisco, met up with an old contact of Eddie's. But he's been running into resistance. And the Life Foundation has returned. The issue begins with Carl Drake telling a new arrival what what is known about symbiotes, which precious little. Mainly because just when they think they do know quite a bit, something new happens that causes them to completely throw out everything they thought they knew. The most recent thing to cause this being the arrival of Null. But turns out Drake wants Venom brought before him. Turns out that the Venom symbiote is hasn't fully bonded with Dylan, and so Dylan's able to just drop it like that, just kind of leave it in place elsewhere. And Dylan doesn't much trust the symbiote. But we get a bit of a flashback of, or quick explanation of the symbiote's existence. And Dylan's talking with Eddie's old contact. She's been following money about something that Eddie told her about. The Beyond Corporation is apparently involved as well. And she's got a potential source for more information. Dylan's going to go with her. But Dylan's not taking the symbiote with him. Instead, Sleeper is coming along. But turns out it's a trap. Eddie's old contact got found out by the Life Foundation, and basically the only way that she would let go is if she brought Dylan to them. But Sleeper helps Dylan survive, but only just. And troops load him up. Meanwhile, Carlton Drake is explaining to the new arrival, Dr. Carson, or Mr. Carson, or is making an offer to him, trying out a new powered armor, Spearhead. It appears that may actually be a new take on the Jury armor. And that is where the issue ends. Venom is definitely having an interesting turn, that's for certain. Moving on, we've got Darkhold SpiderMan. In Darkhold Alpha, SpiderMan was among the 5 that were summoned to read part of the Darkhold to prepare themselves for the madness of, but became corrupted by it, alongside Blade, Black Bolt, Wasp, and Iron Man. We've seen corrupted versions of their pasts, and now we get one for Spider-Man. In this version of reality, Spider-Man is married to Gwen Stacy, but something has happened in New York called the Unraveling. There's webbing holding the city together. But it starts off on Peter and Gwen's anniversary. But it's not just the city being held together with webbing. It's also the people. In fact, Peter comes across someone that was often taken hostage by Doc Ock, and his lower jaw had fallen off. So Peter finds the jawbone and heads to take care of Doc Ock, whose legs and octopus arms are being held in place by webbing. But Spidey defeats Doc Ock when Reed Richards pops the Fantastic Four flare, and so Spidey goes to the Baxter Building. Mr. Fantastic let himself just kind of stop pretending to be human in appearance, which allows him to focus more on, which frees up significant cognitive capacity for his work. But he may have found the big problem is always that every day Spider-Man webs the city back up so that it doesn't fall apart, and then he goes out and does it again the next day. But Reed has potentially found something that might actually work a little better. Himself. If you cut off his finger, it turns into a stronger, longer lasting webbing. But basically, the idea, he wants Peter to, gather all the other stretchy heroes and, so they can band together for this. But it seems someone's returned to New York. Venom. And so Peter takes the sonic gun, goes after Venom. The symbiote is pretty much consumed Eddie. And Peter offers himself up to the symbiote. But the symbiote says, no, he doesn't want Peter. But Peter eventually makes it home for his anniversary dinner with Gwen, though he forgot the cider vinegar. And it turns out she's also been a victim of the unraveling and being held together with webbing. So, later, Peter goes back to the Baxter building and turns all of his fantastic into his new webbing. And it seems to actually be working. Except that it's sentient and, well, it hurts Reed. Though Spidey tells him that he has a responsibility to this city. And that is where the issue ends. These Darkhold one-shots have been quite the interesting read. It'll be interesting to see how everything wraps up with that. Definitely one of the more disturbing ones, though the Wasp's story was also, oof, yeah. Anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Moon Knight '6. Before we get started on Moon Knight, though, we're going to take a quick look at the Villain's Reign variant, which appears to be an Infinity Gauntlet wielding Moon Knight. Presumably, I would guess it's supposed to be Hunter's Shadow. But where we left off, the entity manipulating Moon Knight from the shadows was revealed to be none other than the villain Zodiac, who had in fact created the identity of Terry, a new ally of Moon Knight's, to keep a close eye on him. And Zodiac revealed this as he destroyed the Midnight Mission. So the issue begins with Moon Knight getting his ass handed to him by Zodiac. Apparently, Zodiac wants to break Moon Knight to help him. Doesn't want to kill him, wants to break him. But Reese, Moon Knight's assistant, goes to someone for help. And Moon Knight's able to save Soldier, who'd been taken prisoner by Zodiac. But he promptly loses consciousness. When he comes to, he's being treated by Dr. Badir, the more recently introduced son of Fist of Khonshu. And Dr. Badir, and Mark explains his surprise that Badir is cheating him. Badir explains that he may not respect Mark, might not even like him, but they have the same father, and that makes them brothers. And so we learn, but Dr. Badir regales Mark with his own story. He was born in Luxor. His parents were doctors, and so he followed in their footsteps. Extremely intelligent, but he always found something. When looking at others, he found himself wanting. He didn't have a spiritual connection to anything. He studied the Quran and the Haditha. The Hadith, not Hadith. The Hadith. But he claimed he did so as he did any other subject. Recitations were perfect, prayers and practice were flawless, but it was what wrote to him. He could not make the spiritual connection that everyone he knew seemed to, and that worried him. He began to ask what was missing. Eventually, he found himself walking alone at night and was attacked by some vampires who drained him. And then Khonshu came for him, offering him life. And so Dr. Hadir was reborn, or Dr. Badir was reborn. And it turns out that the real issue that the good doctor has with Mark is that what the doctor spent his life longing for, Mark has thrown away like it was nothing. And so, after treating Mark's wounds, lays him down. The doctor lays Mark down in a sarcophagus so he can sleep until the next moonrise. And waiting for him outside are Reese and Tigra. Moon Knight fills them in that Zodiac, Terry never actually existed. And the people, when they see Moon Knight walking back to the remains of the mission, the people were telling him that it's good to see him up and about. Glad he's okay. They were worried about him. Anything they can do. They're there for him. They're there for him as he's there for them. Soldier thanks. Basically tells Mark, hey, I got your back no matter what comes. And so Reese asks what they're going to do. Mission's gone, and Mark simply states that they're not at the building, but they still have a mission. And if Zodiac wants to test him again, Zodiac knows where to find him. He's not going anywhere. And that is where the issue ends. And it's looking like the next issue will relate to Devil's Reign, in which we saw Moon Knight getting arrested by the Thunderbolts. Moving on to our last book for the moment, we've got Kang the Conqueror number 5. Where we left off, Kang was constantly trying to find ways to resurrect his love, Ravana Renslayer. But every time he tries, he fails. So he constructs Chronopolis and basically, as he puts it, writes her soul into the strand of time, resurrecting her throughout the time stream. And so we get a compilation of various times he ran into her and was unable to save her. And finally she became aware and came after him. Once again he was forced to destroy her, and he goes back and Chronopolis is destroyed, and so Kang falls and goes back to the point where he met his older self. He opts to teach his younger self, and basically realizes it's a loop. But when his younger self thought he'd killed Kang, it turns out he hadn't. Kang had another armor, so the world burned while Kang watched and promptly left. And going into the time stream, you learn the simple lesson of never ever love. And that is where the series comes to its end. Kang's Adventures will continue apparently in a upcoming one-shot entitled Timeless, which should be out this coming week. But that's going to do it for now. The Kang the Conqueror mini was an interesting read, that's for sure. That's going to do it for now, though. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.